Industry from Offshoring to Reshoring, Benefits and Challenges by Gishan Stewart, Jayla Hutchinson, and Mickey Montalvo. There has been plenty of narrative over the past few years about reshoring companies back to their home country, especially in the United States. The apparel industry finds itself in the crosshairs of the debate. For the past 3 decades, the trend has been to design apparel in the West and manufacture in the Far East. From the profitability perspective, it makes perfect sense. Historically, China has been at the forefront of the apparel industry. Over half of the global apparel manufacturers are in China. The driving factors for firms to offshore their production are labor cost, skilled labor, material availability, taxation, just to name a few. In recent times, however, firms are facing criticism for environmental concerns and alleged forced labor. Other factors such as higher wages, trade disputes, the COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain bottlenecks, and energy shortages are prompting companies to consider returning to their home countries. Research and motivation and purpose. The advantages of producing locally and building a supply chain closer to home does not have to be harmful to the global value chain. In fact, it can be an opportunity to build a more resilient and sustainable way to do business. First, the research aims to explore the impact of reshoring, nearshoring firms, and how the shift would transform global value chains throughout the apparel industry. Second, to understand the relationship between a global supply chain model and a shorter supply chain model. Lastly, to encourage readers to be mindful of the brands they support. The research. What are the benefits and challenges of reshoring the production to the home country? And does a local supply chain enable better supply management? And what does this have on sustainability performance? The introduction. What is at stake are 3 decades of productivity gains and innovation driven by the internationalization of production. Dependence on China and other countries create supply chain vulnerabilities, for example, unexpected costs, labor, transportation bottlenecks, government risks, currency risks, etc. On the other hand, it is important to consider the economic ramifications involved in moving out of host countries. Millions of workers depend on foreign multinational enterprises, so the potential consequences could be catastrophic. Other factors such as COVID-19 pandemic have caused havoc on international trade due to lockdowns. The theoretical background. Many experts and academics in the field of supply chain management have been warning about the risk of reliance of offshoring. For example, talks about the increased geographical distance can make it difficult to address environmental and social performance and fully assess supplier sustainability commitment. Longer lead times leading to higher inventory levels, high supply chain coordination costs, oversupply over the years has come under criticism because many brands churn to destroy inventory. Many firms argue that oversupply leads to depreciation of the brand. Note, most companies have halted this practice due to bad publicity. Also, disruptions of the supply of the Chinese production and seizing productivity triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Martinez and Mora and Marino argue that smaller quantities and higher quality to respond to customer demands promptly depending on the specifics of the industry and the expectations of the customer. Producing locally can create benefits related to flexibility, responsiveness, and competing based on time. During the discovery process of this research, we have learned new insights on the complexity of offshoring and reshoring supply chains. Thus, opting to reshoring may be inevitable for many firms. With that said, this is a simplified framework in just two of many categories of what firms should consider. So, the two categories: this research factors physical and environmental uncertainties which favor reshoring. For example, hidden cost and physical disturbances, infrastructure availability and reliability, labor force availability and productivity, environmental disturbances, which are some of the few geopolitical factors, political, natural, and societal disruptions, disparity in national cultures, government regulations and policy. A case study: a high end apparel brand has realigned its supply chain strategy and has since rebuilt its manufacturing back to the UK. Burberry has realized that it can capitalize on the use of its country of origin as a competitive advantage. The factors are many. For example, realizing differences in culture, language, business practices, and legal and political system led to managers underestimating the cost of production. Loss of control of manufactured goods enable counterfeiting, which devaluates the luxury brand. Loyal fans, including celebrities, openly support a campaign to keep Burberry British. Also, problems with premature deterioration of products are known. Reshoring has been challenging, however, Burberry has gained control over its manufacturing process, marketing and distribution, logistics, and the reduction of their carbon footprint. And more recently, United Colors of Benetton, also known as Benetton, a story in the Wall Street Journal, outlines current uncertainty in the supply chain that is stirring companies to move away from lower production costs in Asia to higher costs of production countries closer to home. However, with more control over their operations. For example, Benetton, an Italian apparel firm that has 58% of their production in Asia has been experiencing delays in raw materials transportation, control of making control of their supply chain impossible. Pandemic related border closings and lockdowns. Third party producers in Asia are cheap but requires regular visits to certify manufacturing and materials meet quality standards. Production schedules are not under Benetton's control overseas, just to name a few of the issues. As a result, Benetton plans to move production to Mediterranean countries. The CEO, Mr. Renan, is confident that higher costs of production will be compensated with better quality products, lower transportation costs, and fewer delays. Some of the managerial implications range from concerns with higher costs to the inflexibility of suppliers to the important aspects of helping balance local economies. Therefore, there are many benefits but also many challenges to consider. For example, viability in process and practices, geographical distance, quantity of organizational and communication. And some of the disadvantages and challenges are access to skilled labor, lack of production lines in home countries, government regulations, etc. International supply chains and complicated global subcontracting arrangements in the drive to create competitive advantage are showing major weaknesses. To promote brand value, product offering needs to capitalize on quality and craftsmanship. The need to guarantee competitive market position is influencing brands to rethink the relationship between the design and the manufacturer stages of their operation, which in turn is leading to the reconsideration of supply chains and the reshoring of manufacturing operation. This research aimed to understand the benefits and challenges of reshoring apparel firms to their home country. It shows a few of the many complexities of the global supply chain. The arguments are mostly skewed in favor of reshoring. However, there are many reasons as well to consider having at least some of the production offshore. To answer whether reshoring will enable a better supply chain is difficult because it depends on how the global economy recovers from the COVID 19 pandemic. However, if a company wants to be sure about how the manufacture process is done, then it would be fair to say that they should have more control over it regardless of where the product is made. Thank you.